At a time when state administrations have been across the country have been under unprecedented pressure trying to handle the second surge of coronavirus infections, it's interestingly been a pretty good day on political terms for incumbent governments that faced voters recently, other than that one state of Tamil Nadu, in West Bengal, in Assam, and in Kerala. Incumbent governments have been
Having a
re-elected with strong
problem with the
mandates.
video.
On in Assam is the one good news for the BJP politically, where its government has been re-elected for the second term with pretty much as strong a mandate as it received in 2016. Why that has happened? So to make sense of that, we have Sanjoy Hazarika joining us, amongst the best known journalists, socio-political commentators in the region, that for many years has helped many people make sense of economic and political activity in Assam and the Northeast. Thank you for making time. What has helped the BJP come back with pretty much as much strength as it came in as a challenger in 2016, to come back on the back of a governed state for 5 years with an equal mandate?
Well, I think there are 4 or 5 reasons. One is that it had a sort of winning combination in Sonowal and Hemanta Biswa Sharma, both popular figures as well as people. Sharma is a very influential figure in the Northeast. He's been able to bring this coalition together of all the northeastern states, because the BJP is an alliance or runs the states of all the northeastern states. Now, I think the second factor is really related to the issue that the Congress and the leadership of the opposition was not able to put up anybody of the stature of either Tarun Gogoi, who ran the Congress party and the government there for three consecutive terms, or match the Sharma-Sonowal combination. And I think that a lot of people in Assam are a bit tired of the narrative of the NRC and the CAA that didn't have the kind of resonance that some people thought it would. Because I think there's a certain fatigue with that, both as far as the BJP's own mandate is concerned. I don't think it's going to go very far on those issues. Then I think it is seen that a BJP government in Assam will be able to do well with the BJP government at the center for however long that is there. And the leadership in Assam has a good equation with the leadership in Delhi. So these are among the things, and there have been some, at least in some sectors, the Assam government has been delivering in the field. So and I think people on the whole said, okay, give the Congress 3 terms. They have not been able to turn up a kind of alliance that wins people's confidence. They have not been able to convert if there is a negation of the BJP, they've not been able to convert that into votes. And if you're able to give the Congress 3 terms, maybe the BJP and its allies at least this term as well. One of the things I think you should also understand is the BJP worked on the ground very well, and it had a good alliance with the AGP and the UPPL in the Boro areas. I think that also mattered because they brought new faces, as not the AGP, because those are the same old guys who've been around for 30 years. But the UPPL brought a fresh leadership to the Boro population. I think that was very important.
In terms of what voters did seem to endorse, and if I could break this down into 3 buckets, the idea that governments and political leaders provide people part of 3 buckets of things: a sense of identity that they seek, 1; 2, the basic idea of what is expected from the state in terms of certain activities and facilities that only the state traditionally has had the ability to extend, health, transportation, basic electricity, and things like that. And the third is a framework for at any level economic activity to be able to find its way to do better, for people to be able to do better. If we were to counterbalance these three buckets, to what count is this mandate in different parts of the state an endorsement of any or all of these three things?
I think there's an element of all three in this, but I think that there's an additional factor is that people are really worried about the surge in the COVID-19, and I think there is a feeling that there is a need for a stable government that can deliver, because the health department has been fairly effective in Assam, and although the cases are rising,
in that case, really Mr. Sharma's comment, aren't Mr. Sharma's comments, would they have been seen as, were those comments, did they come too late in the day to make a difference, about him saying, look, there is no infection here, you don't need to wear a mask? As somebody, as administratively the most powerful man in the region, and as somebody who's managing the health department, to undersell the severity of the issue, would that have, how come that didn't happen?
I think there is a very simple thing here, is that it came rather late in the day, as you say. And at that time, there was a sense of complacency. I mean, it is a sense of complacency that we must fight against. And those who are responsible for this tragedy that is overwhelming our country must be held accountable. I mean, there is no question of that, whoever that is. But I think that if you look at the overall situation, my own sense is that people want to give a chance again to a government which is seen to have a good connect with Delhi.
Very interesting you say that, because so you're saying there has been good synergy with the central government, is what you're saying, because they've had this double engine sarkar message that Mr. Modi has had for many years now. In Maharashtra, they dropped their tally. They couldn't get to a point that the Shiv Sena left. In Gujarat, they dropped their tally. In Haryana, they dropped their tally. In Madhya Pradesh, they dropped their tally, then found a way to come back to power. They lost in Rajasthan, they lost in Jharkhand, they lost in Chhattisgarh. Every point where there has been a state government of the BJP, what does he have not seemed to say?
It's very simple. I think the factors are more local than national. The issues are more local, no? I mean, that's the key. All the points that I told you, those 5 points, are all local issues. There is, and the connect is the connect to Delhi. That these guys have got it, have got what it needs, what we need to get a good deal from Delhi, or to get more funding, more support, and all that. And I think that's important to understand.
That's what I was asking, where it's perhaps a model for what other perhaps state BJP governments elsewhere in the country might want.
You can't really replicate. Assam is a very complex, small state, but very complex.
Not as a political relationship. That's all. Because as a political relationship,
as a political relationship, even if there was a Congress government in Assam, it would have a good relationship with the Congress government. That's how it works, especially in small states in a region like the Northeast. They've always sought to have a good relationship with the center, even if they're opposition parties. But here it makes much more sense, because it is a very complex region and it's strategically very important, especially with what's happening next door in Myanmar and so on.
The point you made as point number 2, which was the fact that Congress had nobody to put up, is the original sin then the fact that Mr. Sharma is sitting in the BJP doing all this, having walked out of the Congress, saying that Tarun Gogoi was running a setup that was leaving no space for somebody to rise through and break through to become the state's next leader in the earlier Congress setup? Has that led to where, sitting outside that, he's able to do what he is for the BJP, and the Congress finds nobody to put up in opposition?
Well, that's certainly a factor, and he's an extremely competent and knowledgeable person, uh, and very energetic. He's a young man like Mr. Sonowal, and has connections right across the board, across party lines, across all states. And I think that gives him the advantage. Plus, he's known to have a very strong connect with the central leadership of the BJP. So I think these go in his favor, certainly.
What is the agenda set out?
It's not just. It is not just. Kaushik, it's not just what he was fighting in terms of the Congress. It is that made him what he was, but it is also what he has picked up amazingly skillfully. You know, to do to come to the point that he's been able to.
Administratively, what would you like to see them do with this mandate, and what do you expect them to do with this mandate?
I think the most important thing to do, as in every part of the country, is focus on the health crisis and to ensure that it is controlled. Whether you have a lockdown or not a lockdown is not the issue. It is a question of how do you prevent this from spreading? How do you get enough treatment to people, not just vaccines? How do you get enough treatment to people in time? How do you ensure that the rural areas are protected and safe? Because this is absolutely critical, that they need to lead from the front. All the other things can go on the back burner. This must be the priority of this government and of every government in the country, whether it's at the center or in any state, because the pandemic is a pandemic that affects humanity, not just India.
Indeed, on that somber note, and the fact that hopefully administrations that take power in the states that have just elected the next governments and elsewhere in the country are able to do what's needed to put our arms around the scale and the size of the situation. Hopefully, will mean that in the coming weeks and months, India and will be in a much better place than it is right now. Sanjoy Hazarika, thank you very much for making time. Bloomberg Quint viewers, if you have been, thank you and stay safe.
Thank you.